Painting and finishing SkinFlex 5 polyurethane. Now, in some previous tutorials, I've shown the process of casting up various human body parts using SkinFlex 5, both poured as well as painted into a mold. And in this tutorial, I'm going to do a follow-up on the leg that I cast up in a previous video and show how I cleaned that up and painted it. Now, the first step is to clean up our part, remove any flashing, any seam areas, trim those off, and most importantly, clean off any release agent residue from the casting process. Now, when I cast this leg, I used a TC5130F platinum silicone mold, and I did not use any mold release, so I don't have any cleanup to do here. But typically what I use, if I am removing mold release residue, a lot of times I'll use acetone for that. But when in doubt, check the release you're using and make sure you have a plan of attack for how to remove that release agent from your cast parts. Because different release agents, some are more tenacious than others, so just be aware of that and always check with the release manufacturer or the manufacturer of the casting material you're using before you proceed. Now, when I cast this foot, I got these little bubbles in the sole of the foot, so kind of in the arch area, and I'm going to need to patch those air bubbles before I proceed with my paint job. Now, if you missed the casting video for this leg, definitely check that out, because when I cast up the leg, I mixed up a large pail of part B that I pre-pigmented with both flocking as well as some of the 6900 pigments to get the flesh tone that I wanted. So this is some of the leftovers of that batch, and that ensures that this is all going to be the same color. And when I originally mixed that up, I actually did so it'd be a little bit darker than it needed to be, and that's to account for the use of Fiber Thick, because Fiber Thick, when it's mixed in, is going to lighten that up a little bit. So here I'm mixing out my parts A and B of SkinFlex, and SkinFlex, of course, is mixed 1-to-1 by weight. So I'm just mixing up a very small batch of SkinFlex 5, and then once I mix that up, I'm going to add the Fiber Thick. And typically when I'm thickening with Fiber Thick, I always like to mix up my A and B first, make sure I get those mixed thoroughly before I start adding the thickener, because the thickener can make it a little harder to stir everything up. So make sure you get your A and B well mixed and now ready to thicken that with Fiber Thick. And Fiber Thick is inert. Just add a little bit at a time until you get the consistency you want. And for this, anytime I'm doing patching, filling air bubbles, anything like that, I like this to be pretty thick. So just keep adding it until you get the thickness you want. But you want to add it a little bit at a time so you get everything well mixed into the material. And you see as we're folding that in with our little tongue depressor, we're getting it thicker and thicker as I add that Fiber Thick. And you can use the side of your mixing cup to test how thick it is and see how much it slumps. And if it's not thick enough, just add a little bit more. But just remember that all of this is being done within the working time of the material. So with SkinFlex 5, I have a working time of about 8 to 10 minutes at room temperature. So I want to make sure I get this thickened and everything ready to go and used and applied well within that working time. Now I'm going to add just a little bit more. You see it on the side of the cup there. It's sagging just a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the Fiber Thick. But again, Fiber Thick is inert, so we can add as much of that as we need to get the thixotropic effect, or the thickness that we want in the material. So for patching air bubbles like this, I really prefer it to be like a frosting-like consistency. And once that's ready to go, I am ready to apply that. And really, this whole process doesn't take much more than a couple of minutes to get everything mixed up and thickened the way you need it to be. So we should have more than enough working time to get this applied. So now to the bottom of the foot. And sometimes you'll find that you have some little air bubbles that are just under the surface, and you might have to break through a little membrane of SkinFlex to get to those areas. But what I'm doing here is just applying this with some popsicle sticks, and I'll take the wide tongue depressors and break those lengthwise, and that makes for some great little impromptu sculpting tools for this. And that allowed me to use that sharp corner edge to poke that SkinFlex into those little air bubbles. And I'm kind of over applying it and then wiping it away. That way I can make sure I pack that really good into those air bubbles. And you have more than enough working time to make sure you get this right. So if need be, you could do this in multiple batches. But real important to get this all done well within that 8 to 10 minute working time. You see there, I just poke that right into that air bubble. And then I use the rounded or the blunt or straight side to then wipe away the excess. And if you have large areas that need to be covered, like seams that you're touching up, sometimes it helps to use a piece of plastic wrap or polypropylene bag material to lay down over the SkinFlex after you've thickened it and used it to fill a seam to level everything out. So I'll cover that process if anyone is interested in a future video. But once we patched our air bubbles, we're ready to let that sit and cure completely. And remember that the cure time on that is 5 to 6 hours at room temperature. And once that's completely cured, we are ready for our paint job. And we'll be doing all of our painting with SC94. This is a flexible, stretchy polyurethane coating. And for our painting, we're going to be using a lot of wax paper cups, a lot of popsicle sticks or tongue depressors. And we're going to be pigmenting this using water-based tints. And these are pigments or tints that you can find at a lot of different paint stores, but these are used for pigmenting or tinting water-based paint, like latex house paint. So if you go to a paint store and you'd ask for these tints, tell them that you need something that's compatible with a water-based material and that you'll be tinting something like latex-based paint. And that's what they'll give you, is a water-based pigment like this. Now, some stores will have a wide variety of different tints, and depending on your relationship with the people and how much time you want to spend mixing and matching coloring, you can do a lot of that at some of the paint stores. Will do that for you. But I wanted to show, for the sake of this video, how you can use just your primary colors and some white to make literally every color. So if you have some experience with mixing paint, that will really help out a lot. I also keep a little color wheel handy when I'm mixing, doing paint like this, and that really helps with your just basic color theory. So having that little color wheel standing by, and then just adding that tint or that pigment just a drop at a time. You want to be really careful about that because a little bit of that goes a long way. So unlike paint, which has already had the pigment added, this is very concentrated, way more concentrated than standard paints. So just a drop will be more than enough for most mortals. So be ready to work in very small quantities. And then when you stir that in, you'll see the paint that you get. And I've done this enough times, I kind of know how many drops it takes of some of the different tints to get the color I want. But just add that a little bit at a time and stir that in to get the colors you want. And this whole process of mixing up some basic colors, this might take maybe 20 minutes to mix up your colors. But remember, you want to get these mixed up, and if you're not going to use them immediately, you want to make sure you're doing this in jars that can be closed, because this is an air drying material and it will evaporate and start to gel. So be prepared for that and make sure you cap these off if they're going to be sitting around for any length of time. Now, when I'm mixing up colors like this for a flesh tone, I typically like to work in mainly pretty basic colors and not get into mixing up flesh tones. Sometimes I do a little bit. You see that brown there is kind of a freckle color I've mixed up, but I like to use as close to primary colors as I can and let the eye of the viewer mix the colors on the part, because the more modeled it is, the more realistic your end result is. Now here I'm just dispensing a little bit extra SC94 to use as kind of a thinner. And this is already a really nice airbrush consistency, so no need to thin for airbrushing. There's my color wheel. And the other little prep step I need to do here is I'm going to create a few flick brushes using some 1-inch brushes that I'm cutting down. And then I can use those, dip them in different colors of paint, and flick those on. You can also use a toothbrush for this, but I really prefer these little 1-inch brushes like this. They work great for that. And just make sure you have enough of the brush left that you can flick that easily, and you are all good to go with your flick brush. Now for airbrushing, this is one of my favorites. It's like the world's cheapest, crappiest airbrush, but it's great for just broad work. And of course, I've got my cheap hair dryer there as well. And the hair dryer is important so you can dry each layer of color, each color by itself, so the colors don't start mixing and creating kind of a muddy look. And of course, we need some good artist brushes for detailing. And since we just use distilled water as a solvent for this process, we don't need to be using oil brushes. We could be using watercolor brushes or any kind of good artist brushes. And there's some distilled water I'm going to use for cleanup. And here are two of my airbrushes, my cheap airbrush and my Pache airbrush. This is my setup, and you can see it is well loved and used. I'm missing the little trigger button, but it still works great. And that quick change airbrush, these things are great for just broad work, for just applying a lot of color to a large area. So that's my setup. And then in addition to that, I always like to keep some clean paper towels on hand. Anytime you're doing the flick brush method, you're going to be using a lot of paper towels. And of course, a piece of white foam core board. You won't see it as much in this video, but in previous tutorials, I use that a lot for testing my color and just the saturation of color before I apply my paint to my piece. So real important to have a piece like that standing by that you can do color tests on as you're proceeding, especially if you're new to this process, just so you can get a good idea what your paint will look like on a clean surface. Now, I alternate between brush painting, airbrushing, and then using a flick brush, and back and forth between all three of those methods to get the look that I want. And I know some of you more professional painters probably have a very specific routine you use for this process, but the main thing I want to present here is just to show you the overall just use of that SC94 and just some of the basics you want to be aware of. This is a water-based paint system, and it dries very fast, much faster than I would have expected for a water-based system. So anytime I'm applying that, I always keep some paper towels handy to wipe off any excess if necessary, because it does dry fast and it sticks really good to polyurethane. So you want to be aware of that and be ready to wipe it off if you get it anywhere you don't want it to go. Now for my little Pache airbrush, I use that to, again, do kind of a modeling look all over the part. This is kind of a blood red color that I'm doing just to break up that flat look. And you see how I'm moving my hand around in irregular patterns. The reason for that is to deliberately create an asymmetric pattern on the surface that looks much more organic. If you try to paint this like the side of a car, it will look exactly like that. So remember to keep your hand moving as you're applying colors, and that just gives a much more organic, realistic look. And also, you see how you can just barely see that red going on, and that is by design. You want to gradually build up your color. If you put this on too fast, it will start looking very fake, also very fast. So build up your colors gradually in very thin layers and very light washes, and you will get much better results. So anytime I'm doing a color out of my airbrush, always a good idea to immediately flush that out with clean distilled water. And I say distilled water because that doesn't have any impurities that can react with that SC94 and clog up your airbrush. So as I'm moving along, I'll put a little bit of that distilled water in there and clean that out. I typically don't do that right in front of the piece that I'm painting. That's mainly for the sake of the video. And now I'm going in and painting the underside of the foot, the sole of the foot. And again, I just go back and forth between brush painting, airbrush painting, and using a flick brush. So now I'm transitioning to a regular artist brush to paint the veins on this leg. And you see I'm testing that color against that board. Real important there. I want a very transparent blue to paint those veins on. Again, I'm better off building up that color in several layers than putting that on too intensely and then having to wipe it off really quick. So I'm gradually building that up, and that just gets a much more realistic look to those veins, because we want to be able to see through it a little bit and just give the illusion that we're seeing through the skin to see that vein. And then I'll be airbrushing more on top of that later, but that really helps the realism of those veins. Now for the varicose veins, several of you that were at the IMSH show were looking at the varicose veins that I did on the ankle on this piece, and I used that same kind of a blue vein color, very transparent. And then I applied those veins in very thin lines, and it's actually helpful to have a shaky hand, which I do have. So that really helps the realism of those veins. And when I'm applying those, I deliberately shake my hand a little bit to give the illusion of the vein dropping down below the skin surface and back up again And anywhere there's a space in the vein gives the illusion that the vein is going through different thicknesses of skin. And kind of hard to see here, but you see how my hand is kind of skipping around there. You want to be deliberately kind of shaky with that and use a very thin brush. And then I'm using a paper towel to pat off that excess. And that also helps subdue that a little bit. And it also keeps it from shining. If you subdue your color by immediately patting it down, it will dry matte. Normally by itself, the SC94 will dry kind of a semi-gloss. But you see there, as I'm painting that vein, I'm lifting the brush up periodically, very slightly. And again, what that's doing is creating the illusion that the vein is moving up and down just under the surface of the skin. And then tapping that with the paper towel to remove any of the excess, because the more subtle the better, because you really want people to have to really look at that to see those vein patterns. What we want is for this to look realistic from a few feet away and of course up close as well, but we don't want someone to be 3 feet away and say, wow, look at those varicose veins, because that means they are not realistically reproduced. Now I'm using my flick brush again. You see I got a little bit more than I needed there on the calf. So real quick, as soon as I'm done flicking, I immediately grab that paper towel and dab that off. And real important, when you're dabbing those off, you want to take care not to streak those little spots of color. So make sure you flick those on and immediately take that paper towel and dab off the excess. And that helps subdue that color, and by going just directly up and down, we're not streaking that SC94. Now, as usual, I will put all of the links for everything I'm using for the SC94 as well as the SkinFlex in the video description. And I should note that SkinFlex works really well for this process. It is a very soft polyurethane, but also still a very dry polyurethane. And that's important because some of the softer polyurethane formulas tend to be fairly oily. Sometimes they're oily because they have a lot of plasticizer that's not necessarily very stable. So some of those formulas may be more difficult to paint. So be aware of that if you're using these techniques on a different polyurethane formula. Make sure you do a small test to make sure it will accept paint the way I'm using it here in this video. Because typically if you're using a clean part, you shouldn't have any issues with the SC94 bonding to the polyurethane surface. Now, one extra little trick is you see that I was using some white to paint the toenails, just a very transparent white, but then I'm also flicking some of that white on over the leg with a flick brush and then using a paper towel to dab that off. And those little white marks like that really adds a lot of realism to your skin surface. And that's something I saw Neil Gordon do once, and it really helps out the overall look of the part. So just flicking on some transparent white really makes a big difference. Now, once you've applied your last bit of color, be it with a flick brush or airbrush or whatever, it's a good idea to let this sit undisturbed for a couple of hours to let everything dry completely. You can also force dry it with a hair dryer, but now we are done. And you see we got a really nice realistic leg using SkinFlex 5 and SC94 paint. And of course, as usual, all of the products will be linked in the video description. All of the SkinFlex and SC94 is available at bjbmaterials.com. And if you're curious about more seaming and patching and painting techniques, let me know. I'll be happy to provide more information, and I might even do another follow-up video as I do more of these SkinFlex 5 parts. So again, there you go. There is my SkinFlex 5 leg, and everything is stuck well, and because we use that SC94 paint base, we get everything very well bonded to a very soft polyurethane surface. So as always, thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting the channel. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video and comment for the algorithm.